Hi everybody, I hope you're all doing really well. Back today to talk about the Dangerous Damsels series by India Holton. The books within this series including the Wisteria Society for Lady Scoundrels, the League of Gentlewoman Witches, and the Secret Service of Tea and Treason. This series is a blend of romance, fantasy, historical fiction, and adventure within a whimsical alternative Victorian England. A magical world involving secret societies of pirates, witches, and secret agents. Houses fly and seemingly proper ladies delight in shooting cannonballs at each other, sending assassins on each other, pickpocketing at every opportunity, all the while keeping their gowns neat and tidy, their skin well covered from the sun in order to avoid the great peril, freckles. Rude. And most importantly, acknowledging that there is always time for tea. And in each book we are following a different, unconventional heroine, a woman who is part of this world, but for whatever reason has never quite fit in, while she navigates adventure, intrigue, being a part of this magical but crazy world, but also falling in love along the way. In the Wisteria Society of Lady Scoundrels, we are following Cecilia Bassingthwaite, who is a junior member of the Wisteria Society, a society of lady scoundrels or pirates, and she is very much set of wanting a life of crime and adventure and aspiring to be more than just a junior member. She wants to be fully accepted by the society. When one day she discovers that an assassin, Ned Lightbourne, has been sent in order to kill her, and it is one of the members of this society. And while Ned may have been hired to kill Cecilia, predictably he very quickly falls in love with her, and so they end up pairing up, going on a variety of escapades to find out what is going on, unravelling the mysteries of her heritage, and what does Cecilia truly want in the end. In the League of Gentlewoman Witches, we are following Charlotte Pettifer, who is herself a witch and a member of this League of Gentlewoman Witches. Despite the fact that witchcraft is secret within society, these women work to maintain their power while also keeping that secret. But when a powerful amulet is stolen, Charlotte is on the hunt for it and ends up teaming up with a pirate, Alex O'Reilly. Despite the fact that pirates and witches do not associate with each other, hate each other, once again, you know where it's going, there's going to be lots of adventure, and of course these two are going to make eyes at each other eventually. And maybe they can build a bridge between their two different worlds. In the Secret Service of Tea and Treason, we are following Alice Dearlove, who has been an undercover operative, secret agent for the Agency of Undercover Note Takers, known as ANT for short, who is paired up with Daniel Bixby, who is a fellow agent, in order to thwart a plot to assassinate Queen Victoria. But in order to complete their mission, they are told that they must pose as a married couple, and so must navigate going into treacherous waters, dealing with anarchists, as well as having to fake a relationship, which very quickly becomes a little bit more. One of the things that this series is noted for is just how zany the premises are, and I think India Holton does really capitalise on how wild and chaotic the tone of her books are, and that is part of the charm of them. These characters are very funny in their zaniness, the balance of maintaining both the piraticism, the magic, along with some Victorian sensibilities to create a world that is very unique. A great moment being an Ant character being offended as one of the ladies draws out her dagger towards an assailant, crying "en garde," not because of the fact that there is fighting on the streets, but because speaking French in public is a no-no. The fact that all of these women are ready to fight at a moment's notice, while also trying to maintain some sort of polite, respectable conventions of the time, is really quite funny. I like to imagine the tone of this is similar to something like Pride and Prejudice and Zombies, despite the fact that I have neither read nor watched that, but I imagine it's a similar kind of premise. You're not meant to take it entirely seriously. It is a bit wacky, but you just end up along for the ride. This being said, while I do think the tone is great, and that wacky tone stays consistent throughout the 3 books, the world building and the plots can be a little bit confusing at times. You know, what do pirates do in this world aside from flying their houses? Because that is a point of this book. You're able to just magically levitate your houses to go wherever you want. But if that is the case and that's what distinguishes a pirate, what is actually the difference between witches and pirates in this world? I read all 3 books and I couldn't quite tell what the difference was and why they were so at odds with each other, aside from the fact that the plot told us that that was the case. Why is it that it is so clear that magic does exist in this world, people know that magic exists in this world, and yet apparently we're meant to believe that it is so secret from society, despite the fact that, once again, there are flying magical houses in London, and people clearly do know because they comment upon it. And the plots just generally throughout these 3 books just get so chaotic that at points I'm not sure that India Holton herself knows what she is going to write next. Dare I say, she does seem to be kind of making things up as she goes along. I imagine that she is a gardener rather than a plotter when it comes to her writing, which is not necessarily a bad thing, but I can imagine it might be a bit frustrating for the readers. Another aspect of the plots that I didn't quite get on board with is the fact that there are just no stakes by the time you get to the end of the book. It's great to have these zany, fun characters, these little old ladies who seem to be ready for a fight at a moment's notice, willing to attempt murder and assassinate each other, but then in a jiff are forgiving of each other and just treat it like a game. But it means at no point do you actually feel much danger. And whenever there is a more malicious character introduced to the story, they are often depicted as being so idiotic that you just can't take them seriously as villains. And it is jarring how much these characters will kind of bat back and forth between being friendly and then seemingly out for blood. But then in the end it all resolves anyway. Each character throughout these 3 books have literary interests and they are regularly referenced. Cecilia frequently references the Brontes, and actually within the plot there is a familial connection to the Bronte family, which was a little bit odd, I'm not gonna lie. Charlotte frequently references Jane Austen's characters and often thinks like, what would Lizzie Bennet do? And these are quite consistent throughout the books, but then as soon as we get to the 3rd book, I feel like India Holton just gave up all notion of trying to be consistent and sticking to one major literary theme, because Alice just references anything and everything, from Dickens to Austen to Lewis Carroll, rather than having like one major literary motif that she goes back to. The text itself has lots of references to 19th century literature. For example, the very first lines of each of these books: there was no possibility of walking to the library that day. Charlotte could listen no more in silence. To it was the best of dress shops, it was the worst of dress shops. These references are littered throughout, and I think if you are a certain kind of person who likes a literary allusion, and if you are a person who likes a pop culture reference, but in this form a literary pop culture reference, then you'll enjoy it very much. But then also these books seem to have a weird relationship with classic literature, especially in The League of Gentlewoman Witches. Charlotte refers frequently to Jane Austen's characters and thinking what would they do, but then we'll go back and forth as to whether or not she should be adhering to them. There's even a whole page where she decides that these characters are fools for the way that they interact with men, and then within about half a paragraph has decided, actually no, maybe they had it right. There's just no internal consistency, and I didn't always understand what India Holton was getting at. But then for myself, it is always very nice and gratifying to have 3 main characters and their love interests who all love literature. That's just a very nice little bonus of this series. I will say the strength in this series is the chemistry that India Holton is able to craft between her love interests. It's very much a case where I came for the romance and I stayed for the romance, despite the fact that all hell was breaking loose within the plot and the world building behind it. I really enjoyed how each of our main characters interacted with each other and how they quickly come to understand each other's quirks and differences throughout the course of the book. Ned and Cecilia are on the same wavelength pretty much instantly. I enjoyed their back and forth and banter, the way that they are constantly like stealing things from each other, but then instantly recognizing that the other has stolen something from them. They have a really great rapport from the beginning, despite the fact that Ned is meant to be trying to assassinate Cecilia. Charlotte and Alex, on the other hand, couldn't be more different in terms of their personalities, but they do complement each other. It's definitely a case of opposites attracting. Whereas Alice and Daniel end up becoming each other's harbour within a world that doesn't quite understand them. I will say anybody who is looking for autism wrap within their romances might find this a really nice read. It's never mentioned explicitly on the page, but both characters do appear to be somewhere on the autism spectrum, but they are not just carbon copies of each other, it comes out in different ways. And throughout the course of the book you see how Alice and Daniel understand each other, make each other feel safe, and it is really, really lovely. I do find it interesting that India Holton notes that she likes slow burn in her romances, and that's what she aims to write, because I'm just going to say it right now, none of these books are slow burn romances. But then again, I don't mind, because I like a bit of instant gratification with romances. I don't want to be pining forever, and thankfully that's not what she gives me. The easiest way that I can describe this series is that it is charming if you are willing to go along for that ride, willing to go for a ride in magical flying houses, but it can be at times a little bit tiring, a little bit laboured. It's definitely not without its flaws, but then again, I managed to read all 3 of these books within the course of about 5 days, so clearly, despite my criticisms, I was able to enjoy it and did allow myself to get taken for that ride. Do let me know if you yourself have read the Dangerous Damsels series. Please let me know what you think about it, and also I would love to get any more recommendations for romance. I would love to hear from you. I hope you're having a fantastic, fantastic day, and I look forward to talking to you again soon. Thanks. Bye.